so excited to introduce you to a fellow colleague, a fellow traveler, a fellow healer. She is an amazing woman. She is a warrior woman, a warrior mom, and we'll explain what that means in a moment. But I'd like to introduce you to Jennifer Wren Tolo. She is the founder of Butterfly Family Wellness, and she joins me today live here on Dearjames Live. Welcome, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me, James. I really appreciate it. And hey, kudos for not saying Butterfly Family Farm.
Right? Butterfly Family Farms. There's something there, and we know what that is. So
coming. Stay tuned.
We'll get to that. So I had the honor and the privilege of meeting Jennifer in Sedona at a retreat that we joined together. We were attending and presenting at. And one of the things about Jennifer that really struck me was her personal story and how that brought her. And often that happens. Life brings us that which the soul said it wanted to experience. And then that turns us into this moment of what we're going to express the rest of our lives. You know, it's a continuing journey. And so your personal story, Jennifer, was really impactful and beautiful. And I know that you have 4 beautiful sons, and 2 of them, one had a massive neonatal stroke and the other leukemia. And that was kind of a pivotal moment for you and your family in how you came to do what you do. Will you share that with us and kind of give us a my story, your story of how that happened?
Absolutely. Well, first, it's important, I think, for me to say that I was a critical care nurse for a long time, and I'm married to a surgeon. And so very much grounded in the medical model that's currently the Western medical model. So I had my second son was born via C-section. Everything was great. I remember waking up to all the babies crying in the nursery, and my baby was 30 miles away at a children's hospital in Boston because he started to seize and he stopped breathing. And, I'm in this Demerol fog because when they give you some drugs.
Absolutely.
I just couldn't understand, like, where's my baby? I'm supposed to have my baby right now. Where's my baby? And I woke up sobbing in the hospital because all the babies are crying and my baby's nowhere around. And I remember feeling this, just hearing this voice that said, just breathe. You need to breathe. And I did. I took some really deep breaths, and it's like this calm washed over me. And then I sort of knew, okay, I've got to get to my baby. I've got to get to my husband because he's freaking out and he's being all analytical here and wanting to control something he has no control over. And I need to get to my baby and connect to my baby. And I did. And I remember just wanting to hold him. I held him, and I knew he's going to tell me and show me what I need to do. And through that experience, I got to see sort of the broken pieces of healthcare, what wasn't working, like all these specialists sort of circling my son and giving their opinions, but not communicating. And nobody, and a couple times just being like, wait, whoa, stop, time out. You guys need to communicate, right? And what is the goal here? What are we supposed to do? And I really dove into, I have a dear friend of mine named Bonnie who told me, your son's going to need Reiki. He's going to need energy work. So I want to train you in this. So I became a Reiki master. I'm actually a Karuna Reiki master. I dove into nutrition and how it affects the brain. I became a personal trainer to understand sort of movement and how I can move my son, because he didn't move his right side of his body for the first year of his life. He was like Bob Dole with the arm like this and, didn't move the right side of his body. And, I watched the early intervention, which is, early on OT, PT, speech, working with him. I dove in, and every toy I had for him had a purpose, right? Every interaction was positive. I really wanted to not limit him, but let him show me what he's capable of instead of assuming what he can do based on what I am told by doctors. So it really made me tune into my inner knowledge and what I knew.
I was just going to say, not to interrupt you, I was just going to say, what's important, I think, for the listeners and everything is from the immediacy of the events.
Yeah.
You were listening to your guidance.
Yes.
Breathe.
Yes.
to calm, to bring yourself back to center. Your dear friend saying, he's going to need Reiki, I'm going to teach you.
Yes.
And this is the movement of energy work and so forth.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think, Jennifer, that's so important is that you listened.
Yes.
You actually listened.
Right. And to be honest, if it were about me, I don't know if I would have listened. But that warrior mom and that mama bear in me, I'll listen. I'll do anything for my kids. So that was a big aha moment for me as a parent. What we are willing to do and try for our children is much different than what we're willing to do and try for ourselves. Right.
Yes, absolutely. There's no greater love than the love of a parent for a child in that way. It's all encompassing.
Yes. But it really sort of that showing me what was not working in healthcare and diving into all the other things and realizing I dove into neurology and neuropsychology to understand what the brain needs and how the brain can be neuroplastic, which means different pathways can grow and take over. A child's brain is just the adaptability of a child's brain is incredible. So the same stroke would have completely incapacitated an adult. My son was able to formulate other pathways and learn in different ways. He still has major issues, still has anxiety, still has all sorts of things, but that journey actually prepared me for when my other son, I should back up for a minute. It also taught me that I need the help of others. I was like this warrior woman, and I was like, I got it. I don't need any help. But I realized very quickly, I did need help. I can't do this on my own. And I sort of got that message then. But then when my other son had leukemia, I really got that message. And I used all the tools to help with that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. And because intuitively what I'm hearing as well is, so there's the bond, of course, as we know. We all hear about the bond that is formed at birth with the mother and the child, the laying on the breast of the mother, the breastfeeding and so forth, and just the holding, the touch. And yet what's coming to me intuitively in that moment was that soul to soul, that you were, as you were talking about the neural pathways and what you're forming and everything, well, that bond of the soul to soul, you were also then, by listening, intuitively listening in the moment, using left brain, right brain, intuition and mind and training, but you were connecting in that way, expanding.
Yes.
It's like expanding and contracting in that way. Mm-hmm. And that may be something that we don't understand is taking place, and yet they're showing it to me in this moment with you.
Absolutely.
That's going on as well.
Well, and I always think about like the beginner's mind. We think we've got it. We think that we're teaching our child, that we need to impart our knowledge on our child. But guess what? This kid came into the world with a lesson all on his own to teach me. Absolutely. It was like he came into the world, be like, yeah, you think you're going to be a critical care nurse and a nursing supervisor, but no, that's not your path.
Yeah. It's like, here, see the soul contract, read the fine print.
Yeah.
And that's something else too, Jennifer, is we all, there's this misnomer that as parents, our society and everything says the child knows nothing, we know all, and that we're here to teach the child and so forth. And we forget they're a whole and complete soul. Yes. They're coming in the next generation, the next iteration of us. They're coming to teach as well as learn.
Yes.
And I'm often in awe of the teaching of the soul of the children to the parent, not just the parent to the child.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting when you say that? I just gave a talk. I give talks for organizations. I just gave a talk for an organization that supports parents of kids with autism. And in my talk, I sort of talk about the warrior parent, and which I'm sure we'll cover. But I often say, you were chosen for this role. You were chosen. And so when I was getting feedback from one of the organizers, she said, autistic parents really don't want to be heard that they were chosen for this. And I thought, well, you know what? That's part of my message, is to get you to shift the way you think about this child.
Right. Yeah. And more succinctly, perhaps, you chose.
Yeah.
It's not so much that you were chosen per se, but that on a soul level, yes, we're both choosing. I mean, it's in that sense, it's preordained, meaning before you ever arrive, we're sitting upstairs and saying, okay, what do I need to learn, and what do I want to experience, and what karma do I want to cleanse, and so forth. and we all sit down with guides and teachers and master teachers and say, okay, here's the blueprint, here's the soul contract.
Yep.
Okay, sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
And then off we go, in we come.
Absolutely. In fact, with my son Brody, my son that had leukemia, so I was pregnant with my fourth son, found out I was having my fourth boy the same day I found out my son had leukemia. And I remember, again, my other friend Bonnie said to me, this was his soul contract with you. He agreed to come in and have this experience because it was going to awaken you and strengthen your connection to source, to guides, and to your purpose. And it did. I mean, I used everything that I learned with my other son, I brought into this experience, and I did Reiki on him every single day. He never had mouth sores. I really dove into nutrition and was very careful. You know, some of the kids are coming out of having, spinal taps or surgeries, and they're getting McDonald's and Dairy Queen, not that, go for it if that's your thing.
Right, no judgment, but.
Right, but not really the most healing foods, right?
Right.
Everything that I fed my son was stuff that I knew was going to impact cellular development and cellular recovery. So, yeah, I mean, and then everything beyond that is just kind of unfolded, and I'm constantly learning. They're constantly teaching me.
Well, we may be jumping ahead here a moment, but it's striking me in the moment too.
Yeah.
So many parents, of course, and certainly when their children are at risk, massive medical issues, their lives are at stake. And so that's very challenging in and of itself. Mm-hmm. Then there's the issue of the helplessness. You're looking outwardly into a westernized state of existence and knowledge and so forth, meaning medical facilities, doctors, nurses, and they are on the front lines and amazing and so forth. The question and my point is, what would you say to a mother, a father, a care provider in terms of, because in a sense, what you've demonstrated and what you've articulated just now is from the get-go, you had a support system and or a sense, an inner knowing sense to listen. Yes. You had your friend that's coming in from a spiritual place saying, okay, you're going to need this and I'm going to train you. And then you're utilizing it. So many don't have access to that. They have access. Everyone has access to their inner knowing. But my question or point is, what would you say to these parents to say, in this situation, how do you introduce that? How do you seek it out? I mean, certainly you're that's why we have you on today, is for them to be able to see you as an example, come to you, work with you, and so forth. So in the moment, though, what can they do to introduce that or to seek it out, to find it?
One of the biggest things they can do is just get still and connect be present with their child. Their child will let them know what they need, and be open to your gut. Because your gut, I always say, you got to integrate the warrior head, which is the thinking. We have all the knowledge and the analysis and the logic. Your heart, which is the love and the inspired action and intention behind things. Sometimes, this was me, I was that warrior mom where I disconnected my head from my heart, because to feel in that moment is hard, is overwhelming. And so when you find yourself in those places, you've got to breathe. Just breathe and ask for help. Whether you believe in God, the universe, angels, whatever it is, ask for help. Ask for clarity, because you have to give them permission to help you. So when you ask for that and you breathe, you can then reconnect the head to the heart and use your gut, that warrior gut that's going to integrate the whole process, and let you tap into what you know. So I remember, and I was, I don't know. So my older son is 18 now. But I remember going through neuropsychology exams, and I remember my first neuropsych exam to get my son the support at school that he needed. I had him tested, and I had to go in by myself because being married to a surgeon, he's not around. He's a great dad, but he's not able to be there on those meetings.
Right.
That was sort of my job, is my kids, right?
Right.
And so I'm at this neuropsych exam, and I'm in a rough spot. I'm in a very overwhelmed spot trying to get help for my son. I always say it's like I feel like I'm on this battlefield and there are people circling me in judgment, parents, practitioners, doctors, nurses, my own parents, circling me in judgment, maybe tossing me a Band-Aid or two as my son lies wounded in my arms. And I literally remember sitting in this neuropsych exam, going to one of those people circling me who's supposed to help me. And she's just literally going on just her first findings, which she's telling me, your son has a low IQ. He'll never do this. He'll never do that. And I literally felt so like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Don't you love when those people show up? I mean, not in the moment, but looking back in hindsight, don't you love when those people show up?
Yes.
Playing their role.
Right. And this is what I would say to any of those parents right now in that moment. I literally had to hold my hand up and say, could you, like, she didn't even have the compassion to see that I was so overwhelmed with emotion that I couldn't process what she was saying to me. Right. It was like, woo.
You're like this, stand down, stand back. Yeah. Exactly. Otherwise, I think you're going to see yourself out the front door and across the parking lot. And I mean, all from love, but you need to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And I said that. I was like, I need a moment. Can you just give me a moment? And I remember going outside because movement and it helps balance energy. I went outside and I took some deep breaths and I called my dad, who's my rock. And he goes, Jenny, why are you letting somebody else tell you who your child is? And exactly. I was like, you know what? You're damn right. Why am I? And I went in there and I listened and I was like, I'll take that piece. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll take that piece. Right? And that's where, if you are in that place where you're completely overwhelmed and you don't know where to start looking, that's when you really got to go in and you really got to calm your nervous system. Because let me tell you, being a parent, your emotions get triggered when you are worried about your child. I am still like that. And I've done all this work. I still get like that. You have to calm the nervous system with breath, with movement, all sorts of tools that we have. We need to find those tools in our toolbox, because when we calm the nervous system, then we can start connecting to that inner knowing. We can start connecting to our guidance. We can start really using our rational thought. Like, wait a minute, if this kid had a low IQ, at 2 years old, when he couldn't see out the window, would he be going into the cabinet, grabbing one of those big coffee cans, bringing it over to the window and stepping up on that so he can see out? That's not a low IQ.
No, exactly. Right. And it's important to remember, although, as you just said, you've just given the tools of, like, in the moment, do this so that you can reconnect, so that you can hear yourself, that you can hear your divine connection.
Yes.
You can take that beat. But it's also important to remember, these people are showing up. It's your play. These are the characters in your play. You've asked them to come on a soul level. You've asked them to present themselves.
Yes.
And in the most defining way. So in this example of your literal experience, you're able to look back and say, thank you, because you, out of that message, out of the harshness, the not connecting and understanding and seeing you in the moment, but it instilled in you this kind of like, oh, hell no. My child will be, like your father, I will define who my child is. My child will define with me who he or she is.
Yes.
And so, as you just said, I'll take that. I'll take that. And the rest of this, I'm going to set it over here on the cupboard on the side. Mm-hmm. That's nice. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. And then, soul to soul, child and parent, now we will decide. We will determine the path forward.
Yep.
Because who knows best?
Absolutely.
The soul itself, the child itself, the mother itself, the father.
Yep.
So let me ask you, so from these two experiences, and your background and your education, your extended learning and so forth, how did you come? I have two questions. One is, how did you come to found Butterfly Family Wellness, number one, and number two, why the butterfly?
Ooh, great questions. I'm going to touch on the why the butterfly first. Butterfly is a symbol of transformation and change. Butterfly is a symbol of going inside and transforming from it within, and then emerging and having the courage to spread your wings and trust that, yes, you can. That's why the butterfly. And the family is because I love my purpose. I know that one of my big purposes here on earth is to help to change the world for children. I know that. But I also know that in order to change the world with children, I need to work with the parents. I need to work with the educators. I need to work with healthcare and with all the communities that support the kids, because they're the ones that influence children, the environment. They're the ones that are creating policies. They're the ones who are creating the belief systems. So the family piece is because I rarely just work with a child one-on-one. If I'm working with a child, I have to work with the family too. And when I'm working with an adult and I'm helping that adult discover their own internal healer, I'm actually going to then help them heal their family, because whatever they do, I have this little graphic, this ripple effect. Whatever you do for you, whatever choices you make, ripple out to your kids, your family, your community, your state, your world. So that's where butterfly family wellness comes from. And the butterfly is obviously, to me, it's so funny because when I first had my business, everybody started giving me butterflies. Like butterfly this, butterfly that. I was like, okay, time out. And then it became, because I'm very into angels and the spiritual connection, then it became angels, but they're similar. The wings and the, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And the beauty of that, and that it's both an internal, it's always an inside job.
Yes.
As we know, and for everybody listening, it's easy to stop at the surface. It's easy to look out. It's easy to blame others.
Yes.
However, if you want the transformational change, the butterfly effect, the butterfly family wellness, the ripple, it comes from going in, look in, always start in. And then when you change the inside, the outside changes. Yeah. And so, and as you've just articulated, which we're going to get into, you know, it's an integrated, so it's both an internal job and an integrated approach, because it's not just the children. You've got to work with the whole, because the whole is in reciprocity with each other. Absolutely. And this is, I think, a brilliant piece and aspect of the work that you do, is that you're working with not only the children, that's your pride and joy, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's, but the parents, the health educators, the teachers, the actual foundations and institutions. When you help them, it's like, help me help you. It's like you're helping them help the children are helping them, and thereby there's this beautiful integrated approach.
Absolutely.
List some of them, identify some of the aspects or the issues that the children that you work with and the families that you work with, that they face. What types of issues are you practicing on?
You know, lots and lots of stress and anxiety, like debilitating anxiety, where a lot of times it's just it's a dysregulated nervous system. I see a lot of kids with learning disabilities, a lot of kids with ADHD, which we are immediately putting on medication. You know, and I gotta say, this is part of my integrative approach too. I am not one of those practitioners that believes in all or nothing. I truly believe in an integrated, that there are times that you do need medication. I like to use the analogy of, like if your drain is slowly draining and you catch it, you can use like the baking soda and vinegar, the natural approach to open and unclog your drain. But if you let it go too far or don't notice that the drain is slowly clogging up, and next thing you know, you have standing water in your sink, the natural approach isn't going to work. You're so out of balance that you actually need some of the medical pharmaceutical support to bring you back in balance. So then you can start easing into the natural things. And so, you know, I work with a lot of parents, women that come to me, moms that come to me really stressed and having all sorts of health issues because of their stress, wanting stuff for kids and feeling powerless and overwhelmed and not sure. so many people come to me wanting me to fix them. It's like they give their power to me and say, I want you to fix, like, tell me what to do. Tell me. I don't work like that. I work with, I'm going to help you figure out how to do this. Same thing with kids. It's all for me about empowerment. Understand who you are. Be aware. All starts with awareness. Be aware of who you are. Be aware of sort of what your challenges are. And be aware of how do you use your strengths to overcome those challenges. Be aware of your environment and what you need in that moment. Be aware of your body and your nervous system and what's happening. You can give your power away to the anxiety and let yourself spin and just go, oh my God, I'm anxious. Or you could be like, oh, wow, I'm starting to get a little nervous. And then use the tools in your toolbox to calm yourself down and to go, is that true? Is this really a threat or is it not a threat? So a lot of anxiety, ADHD, a lot of parents with ADHD, a lot of parents with just stress and GI upset from stress, overwhelm, feel, again, just having the desire to change something, but having no idea where to start. So I used to, believe it or not, I used to see people sort of clinically, they would come to me with like, these are the signs and symptoms, these are the complaints that I'm having. I'm really trying to shift away from that, because what I'm finding is they're just symptoms of a greater problem, which is really, people don't feel heard, seen, or and they're all blocked up. People are completely dysregulated in their nervous system. People are either buying into over extremes, which throw the body further out of balance, or energetically they're completely out of balance, and they just need tools to kind of realign and recenter and reconnect. So that's usually I'm really wanting to and starting to work more with educators, because I feel like we got to change things in the education system. And even what's happening now with the online learning, I feel like we're able to take our foot off the gas. And I hear a lot of people saying, well, they're not really learning anything and they're not really doing that. And I'm like, but if we're doing our job as parents and we're connecting and engaging with them, they're getting what they need.
Everyone's learning.
See them, hear them,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the educators don't realize, and I think a lot of people put stuff on children. Like, why are they acting like that? I'm like, well, if you're anxious and you're spinning out of control, how do you think they're going to be? Your energy affects their energy. Your energy as a teacher is going to affect that child's energy in your classroom. If you are overreacting to things and assuming that a child is being bad or acting out or whatever, you're missing this child's needs. You're not helping this child get what he needs in this moment. So that's a big part of what I work with people on, is really understanding what's going on inside of yourself, and then empowering them with, number one, what can you control? What can you not control? The awareness of what's happening. And then realizing that you have the tools to heal yourself.
Yeah,
you can take back control of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important for people, again, for everyone listening, because you just touched on it again. There's a piece here where people forget everything in the universe is energy.
Yeah.
Everything, everyone, everything, the furniture we sit on, the plants, the people, the humans, the air we breathe, it's all energy. And so when kids are quote unquote acting out, or the parents are expressing anxiety and frustration and worry and so forth, there's a moment here where you kind of stop and pivot, stop and listen, stop and connect. Mm-hmm. And remember, if you're feeling the energy, it's not just what you're thinking. Your thoughts are energy. Yes. So there are cosmic energies. Full moons. It's hilarious. You go to the full moon and everyone says, is it a full moon or Mercury retrograde? Oh, it's Mercury retrograde. Like people are getting used to going, oh yeah, when there's a full moon, people go cuckoo. Yeah. Oh, it's a Mercury. That's energy. So that cosmic energy is affecting us.
Yes.
It's affecting our behaviors, our thoughts, and so forth. And so it's important to then look and say, okay, what energy, what cosmic energy is going on that's maybe affecting me, my children, my husband, my wife, my partner, whatever it might be, so that then you slow down again and say, okay, or you might inquire and engage with the children and say, what are you feeling?
Yes.
Because it's also important. Adults need to remember children are, again, they're the future.
Yes.
They have the next iteration of understanding, software, language, connection.
Yes.
And so there's a beautiful benefit when we stop to say, how are you feeling? What are you picking up? What are you sensing? And because they're so vulnerable in a pure way, there's no filter. They just tell you, oh, blah, 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 blah. And, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. If you listen.
You've got to listen. Yes, absolutely.
And you're not present with them. I mean, it's interesting. I can't tell you how many kids with ADHD or that have been diagnosed with ADHD. Now, you and I have talked about this. I believe kids are coming into the world vibrating at a higher level because that's where we need to go, right? So they're vibrating at a higher level. They're quicker. Their attention gets taken away. I mean, look at this whole 5G thing and all technology. Kids are coming into the world keeping up with that, right? But I had a little boy that came to see me who just teachers would get really frustrated with him because he couldn't sit still. And so I have this toolbox that I create for kids that's called a mood toolbox. And he always likes to come in my office and play with things. And so I have one of those little things that you clip on your finger that tells you what your heart rate is and your pulse oximetry.
Right.
So he's like, what is this? And he's putting it on. I said, all right, let's just play with this for a minute. Let's just see. So let's say his heart rate was like 80. Then I said, okay, do 10 jumping jacks. He does 10 jumping jacks. Now, what would you expect to happen when somebody does 10 jumping jacks to the heart rate?
Right. The heart rate increases.
Increases. His decreased. His decreased. So what does that tell me? This kid has so much kinetic energy inside of him that he needs to move. That calms his nervous system. Right. So if you tell this kid you have to sit on this spot and you can't move,
he's spinning.
His heart rate's going up. He's like about to explode.
Right. Yeah, genie's in the bottle trying to get out.
Completely. And so I told him that. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I go, this is like a superpower. I was like, those guys, like Flash that can buzz here and buzz here. I'm like, dude, that's you. Like, you can do this.
And it's counterintuitive to the parent, right? I mean, it's counterintuitive to what we know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, you have to be open to seeing exactly what he or she is in the reverse.
Yep. And then I taught him how to breathe. Like when you do have to sit still, how to breathe. And I showed him with this, technology, how his heart rate can lower when he elongates his exhale because you're expending energy in that exhale. Mm-hmm. So now he has that tool in his toolbox to know, okay, if I have to sit, I'm going to breathe and I'm going to go like you're blowing a balloon or a pinwheel. And that's something in the toolbox. I have balloons and I have pinwheels.
I could just see him in the moment. A vision of it popped in, like the classroom, everyone's facing forward in their chairs and whatever. And he's in the back going,
yeah.
And to the point where the whole class is going,
exactly. And guess what?
Breath, breathing.
What a better classroom. What a better, calmer environment it would be if people did that. Except nowadays, the teachers are so reactive. They'd be like, why are you doing that? Stop doing that.
Well, now it's on Zoom, so you can do it. So I want to talk about, because you're talking about tools, and I want to get to some of the tools you.
Yeah.
Please explain integrative bridge to health. What does it mean? How, and what are the other, again, kind of succinctly, what are the tools in your toolbox that you use with parents, kids, and so forth? So there's a little bit of a flavor of that.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I kind of touched on it. So the integrative bridge to health is I'm able to understand modern medicine, but I understand alternative medicine. So for example, just like when my son had cancer, I knew some people in the holistic world would not have gone for the chemo. I was like, you know what? You need to kill these cells. And so we went and he had chemotherapy, but to balance that, I did Reiki on him every single day. And he never had mouth sores. He never had the really nausea and vomiting, the bad effects of the chemo, because we were able to clear that out. And it was interesting because there were a bunch of nurses who had been trained in Reiki, but they really didn't understand how to do it. So I would bring him by the bedside. I was like, oh, let me show you. And when I can't be here, this is what I'd like you to do with him. Let me show you how you can use that and help your patients. So that's sort of that integrated bridge and understanding, for example, nutrition and herbs and things, that's food. Food has their own energy and you can heal with that. But again, I'm not gonna, if I break my arm, I'm gonna use good nutrition to help knit back the bones and everything, but I'm still gonna go see the doctor and get that cast. Do you know what I mean? So right. I know how to bridge that. And I also know how to speak both languages, so I can translate between the two. I also am a bridge between self-care and caring for others, because so many of us warrior moms out there are giving everything away to everybody else. I did that. I was so busy buzzing around and looking for fires and fighting fires for my kids that I started getting migraines so bad that I actually I thought I was having a stroke. And it was funny. My husband's like, call 911. I'm like, I don't have time to call 911.
You call 911. I'm having a moment.
Yeah, I dropped my speech and I can't feel my arm.
Does the woman have to do it all? Like, hang on, I've got the 4 kids. Okay, hang on, I'll call. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. So
sounds like a woman's life.
Yes, but that's it. You have to. But so I learned, like, I got to put myself on the map here, because if I don't put my oxygen mask on first, I'm not going to be able to be here for my kids, right? Absolutely. So self-care and caring for others, that balance. And then adults and kids, like just the interaction between the two and the accountability of our own actions as a parent and as an adult, and how it impacts children and how it impacts their world. When kids, listen, what's happening in the world right now? People don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. They feel dismissed. That creates a lot of anger and rage inside of people.
And they also don't feel safe.
Yes.
They don't feel safe.
So that's the thing. Yes, you have to. That is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In order for you to self-actualize, you have to feel safe and secure.
Yes.
So, and it's amazing to me how many kids, and it's funny because I remember working with some teachers, and they said, oh yeah, well, we make sure kids are safe. Like, we've got metal detectors, we go through all these drills. And I said, what about emotionally safe? And they were like, huh? What?
Right. Exactly.
We forget about that. Yeah, you might be physically safe, but right. In middle school in particular, do they feel safe? Do they feel safe to voice their opinion, or are they worried somebody's going to make fun of them? Are they worried when so-and-so's on their phone, they're talking about them, right? They don't feel safe.
Yeah. So, and it's still in that paradigm, in that of it's a one-way street. I, the teacher, I, the school, I, the institution, am one way teaching you.
Yes.
As opposed to, no, we're in reciprocity.
Yes.
Teacher, student, student, teacher. Let us, yes, there's a curriculum. Yes, there's knowledge to impart and so forth. And yet, yes, there is, from a soul level, an emotional level, a reciprocity, exchange, so again, the educational system could take a huge step forward by incorporating this emotional learning, this interaction with children, so that because again, imagine if we all did it. We went through school and high school and college and stuff like this and say, okay, and it's all coming at you. It's all one way. And then it's like you finally get out into the world and you're supposed to go, okay, now I know how to put this out.
Right.
Well, where is it in our formative years of growing up? Where is it where they truly have the ability to express in return, to and not act out and so forth, but to exchange?
Absolutely.
A meaningful exchange of education, of knowledge, wisdom.
Yes, absolutely.
You coined a phrase.
Can I just interject one thing? One thing I forgot to say is one of the things also that I integrate is logic and sort of the logical brain and science with intuition and connection. Because I think that there's a lot of people that are very intuitive, but sometimes don't have their feet on the ground. And there are people that are such logical thinkers that they don't understand something if it's not, like, they can't trust blindly. So that's another integrative piece for me, which is important because I feel like I translate a lot between the two. Like my friend Bonnie, I'm like, I'm going to anchor you on the ground here because you're up here. I need you to come down here.
Right. Yeah. We need to tether this at least for a moment. But, and it's very true, because being able to bridge that and teach that or help introduce that to people is very important, because again, as you just said, it can be all or nothing with a lot of, left brain, right brain. Are you intuitively listening and yet you've turned off your logic and your intellect and so forth? Or are you so mired in your ego, mind, personality, logic, and so left brain, that you've forgotten how to utilize or even tap into or trust your intuition?
Or if you want healthcare providers to understand you and where you're coming from, you have to be able to speak to them in a way that they can receive it.
Yes.
Because if you're coming at them all woo-woo and like, I'm just gonna I saw somebody wearing a sign that said, I'm not wearing a mask, God will protect me. Okay. But the science says this is how the germs spread. Right. So unless you have a bubble around you that God has provided you, I don't know how he's going to protect you. So that kind of bridging that gap, I think, is really important, because you need somebody to translate that can speak both languages. So I'm that bridge. Yeah.
Beautiful. And so warrior mom, warrior parents, warrior kids. Why the word warrior?
Because a warrior is somebody that is faced with challenges and that has to show up and overcome fear and have courage and have the perseverance to continue to keep facing those challenges, even knowing that they're hard. I think parents in general are warriors, because if you're going to be a good parent, you really have to show up. And when you have a child with special needs, you really have to show up and you really have to have courage. I mean, I always say there are days where it's like life is like a roller coaster ride. And there are days that you throw your hands up like, woohoo, all right, I got this. And then there are times where the plummet is so steep and deep that you're like, I'm going to throw up. I need to get off this ride. Or guess what? You can't get off the ride.
No, you can't get off the ride. It's a lifetime commitment.
The courage and the tools to endure. And that's a warrior. And warrior kids, because kids that come into this world with challenges. Now, I like to say special challenges, because special needs conjures up in my mind, special needs conjures up the thought of the child in the wheelchair or the mentally handicapped child. And a kid with challenges could be a kid with what I like to call an invisible disability, like my son. You would look at my son and you wouldn't have no idea that for him to even speak and find the words to come out of his mouth takes so much energy and effort. And sometimes things don't come out right. And people are like, huh, what? Or the anxiety or the way he processes things. So that's what I call an invisible disability. So kids with special challenges are kids that have those disabilities, those invisible disabilities, whether it's anxiety, whether it's speech, whether it's processing disorder, whether it's a learning disability. And they have to show up every day and deal with their challenges and overcome their challenges every single day, because that's their life. So they're warriors. Yeah, and we're all, also warriors see battles places. You got to be ready to fight. You have to be armed with knowledge, with awareness, with understanding and tools to help you do what you know you need to do, even when it's hard. And you also have to know, this is where I say the peaceful warrior, you and I have talked about this, you have to know that you can't always fight in battle with overly emotional or angry coming at people ready to fight, when sometimes it's better to have a peace talk. It's better to have a dialogue, or there is no fight. You're seeing a battle that's not there. Yeah. So that's the warrior parent, warrior family, warrior child.
Yeah, and there's a beautiful piece of, as you've mentioned many times throughout this moment right now, is the empowerment. When I hear warrior, yes, of course it can mean doing battle and this warrior, but it's also the word that keeps coming to me over and over again is empowerment. Empowerment. Yes. It's to empower this warrior and to know When do you need or have to do battle?
Yep.
And when can you do so? When can you do or be a warrior from a peaceful place, from a peaceful warrior position,
Right.
with the ultimate goal of peaceful warrior? This, that it's
Yep.
just this entrenched empowerment. It's the
Yes.
tool that I feel like for everybody listening and being introduced to Jen and everything and Butterfly Family Wellness, that I think is the summation of it's the empowerment, the tools, the bridging, the East meets West, this beautiful kind of articulation of listening, teaching you how to connect, utilizing all the tools in your toolbox to effectuate change, beautiful, beautiful, empowered change, their empowerment.
Yes.
Not reliance on you, but empowerment on learning what they need to learn and then taking that forward and, as you've said, causing that ripple.
Yes.
You've come you've come now through this long journey, and before we close everything up and everything, it's there's this beautiful expression again: tame the chaos in your life.
Yes.
And so, just explain that for a moment in how you're utilizing that statement.
Yeah. Well, life is chaotic. Life is full of stress. And a lot of us kind of let that spin us up into this place of overwhelm and a place of inaction, almost like frozen. So in the nervous system, we're in that fight or flight when we're in that chaotic time. And you're not going to get rid of chaos, but you can tame it. So you're not spinning, you're actually grounded and calm. So you can start to tap into the tools. You can start using your higher brain function. You can start getting that connection and that guidance from above and that intuition. So when I help people tame the chaos of their lives so they can take back control over their health and their happiness. And I do that by first helping them become aware of what are the things that are completely overwhelming to you. What are the things that are creating chaos in your lives? And then looking at what do you have control over? What do you not have control over? What can you influence? And then looking at how do we surrender and let go of the things that we don't have control over or that we're allowing to spin us up. And then tools to start to, I call them mindful moments, because I can't tell you how many of these warrior moms say, I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time for that. So I create these mindful moments, which are little mini meditations or little mini movements, little energy balancing techniques that you can use to calm your nervous system and ground and reset your energy. Because from that place is where you are most powerful, where you are most connected and most in tune. And then hopefully, and then I teach people sort of more techniques and energy balance things for their toolbox that are going to be more practice oriented, not quick fixes, but things that over time, like mindfulness, they start to get, and it will start to tame the chaos of their lives because they're more connected to their life. They're more focused in their life. They feel more purposeful in their life. They feel more supported with other people, and they feel more empowered with, okay, I do have control over certain things. I do have control over my body and my mind. I just need to remember these tools. So that's...
And absolutely in control over your choices. I mean,
yes,
that's massive. So do you choose self-care? Do you choose to stop and listen and connect? What are your choices? Because your choices affect your experience. They dictate it.
Yes. And you can control you and only you. So many people try to control other people or other people's, opinions. You can't control anybody but yourself.
Absolutely.
And you can't control the future. So many people spend so much time focused on the future. Like our mutual friend Danielle talks about, like avoiding pain or they spend so much energy and so much time. Carolyn Meese talks about, like, if you have $100 and you're giving $80 away to the future, and you're giving, $10 here and $10 there, you have nothing left for yourself in that moment. But your power is in the present moment, because that's where you have choice and control.
Absolutely. And in that present moment, you can choose, having given away your $100.
Yes.
In that present moment with nothing in your hand, you can absolutely stop and empower yourself to the joy of the moment.
Yeah.
It's because then again, it's not about the past, what I don't have anymore. It's not about the future, about where I haven't gotten and I don't have anything to get. Oh, in this present moment, oh, look at that beautiful flower. And it just absolutely radiated and made me thrive in that moment. And it reset me.
Yeah.
And that, of course, again, is a choice. So.
And laughter comes as you know, I love to laugh.
I love to laugh too.
Yeah. But you have to. I would not have gotten through everything that I've gotten through had I not had laughter in my life, because there's some cathartic, beautiful release that comes with laughter. There's something that reminds you that, you know what, there is good. And you know what? Get over yourself. You're taking yourself too seriously.
I was just going to say, you're taking life too seriously.
Yeah. And when we're so focused on
serious.
Right.
Yeah. Not that the moments aren't serious, but it's remember to laugh. Remember to find the humor in it, or, again, the pearl, the wisdom, the gift.
Yep.
So you have one other thing that I just love, and it's fascinating. And I know you utilize it with your friends, family, clients, and so forth. It's not offered, in mass to the public and so forth, but you actually grow and do your own blends, proprietary blends of what you do for your teas.
Yes.
How do you, share with us how you integrate that?
Yeah. Well, I still do a little bit of something called nutritional response testing. I don't do a ton of it anymore because actually it was one of those tools I had to get to validate my medical intuition, to validate, oh yeah, what I see and what I'm guided towards is actually what the muscle and the nervous system is telling me is true. But when people are out of balance, I myself don't love taking pills. I don't love taking medicine. But sometimes when you're really out of balance, you need something to bring you back in balance. So herbs are beautiful ways that we can use to support the nervous system. For example, it's allergy season around here. I have a tea that I created because I don't like the drying effects of the antihistamines. So I learned about natural herbs and how to use natural herbs. I remember being at this permaculture farm in Colorado Springs, and this amazing young man who was a farmer was going around and showing us the garden, and he pulls this, looked like a corn stalk that exploded, and it was something called mullein. And he said, oh yeah, this is a great natural antihistamine. I just pull off these little tufts and I use this in my teas. And so I have a tea that I make that has mullein, it has rosemary, nettle, which is an anti-inflammatory, and I use like either rooibos, which is a red tea, decaffeinated tea, or I'll use green tea, or sometimes oolong tea is the base of the teas. But I have I have these kitschy names too, like anxiety, which is lemon balm, lavender, and chamomile mixed with rooibos. And these are just great teas that have these natural herbal properties that help with whatever. If it's to stimulate, they're either stimulants or the depressants, or they're antihistamines, natural anti-inflammatories, and I incorporate them. Like I have an anti-inflammatory that has turmeric and different ginger and different things that help to calm the inflammatory process in the body. So I use them with clients and my family. In fact, my family probably uses more of the tea than anybody does. But I have, friends, family, clients that love my teas. I use intuition to blend them. As far as how much I use of each, that's guided. I use them as ways to kind of balance. Like I have friends of mine that don't like to drink coffee. So my Clara tea that has tulsi and sage and a couple of other things and mint, they're natural sort of stimulants that help to awaken the body. This guy calls me and like, I'm out of the clarity. Can I have some more clarity? So little things like that, but I don't mass produce because a lot of it comes out of my little garden, which is my kind of mindful moment is the gardening. A lot of it comes from the garden, and what I don't grow myself, I get from a source that is that uses only organic, non-irradiated stuff, and I blend the teas and use them in place of like a supplement or medication to help just balance the body.
So before we wrap, we're going to bring it all home here. So just a final question is, what is your greatest, in the work that you're doing, in the life that you're living, in the experience that you've had and that you are happy, continue to have? Through all of this, what's your greatest hope?
Oh, I really hope that we can start to learn to look within ourselves instead of looking to everybody else to fix us and to tell us the answers and to keep up with the Joneses. I really hope we can start seeing our own beauty, learning from ourselves, and really allow people to really tap into that inner wisdom and that connection and balance themselves. Because if we could all regulate our nervous systems and stop reacting to things, what a more peaceful world we'll have. What a more present world. And when we're more present, we can really be pretty powerful. So I guess it's twofold. Going within and tapping into your own inner knowledge, being more present in their lives, less distracted and disconnected. And then really like start looking at people through a different lens instead of comparatively or what's lacking, to really see people and hear people for who they are and let our souls speak.
Yeah. See the divinity in each other as opposed to the separation or the contrast, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, for everyone listening today, and certainly for the parents, for those that are going to become parents and so forth, it's becoming a parent. Life, there's no instruction manual. There's no instruction manual for life and certainly for raising children.
Yeah.
And I've often said that children with, I like to almost say, special gifts.
Yes.
Are some of the most profound teachers, or some of the most profound gifts of divinity, if we only open our eyes to see it and to accept it and embrace it and move past the initial challenge, move through the pain of it, the fear of it, and so forth, to get down to the actual gifts of it, the actual beauty of it. And that's what Jennifer offers. She offers you tools. She offers you ways to become more conscious, to become more aware, to become more connected, to see the alternatives so that you are more empowered, more capable, that you are truly that peaceful warrior that is just out there living your best life and doing it your way. And in that, as Jennifer states, that ripple effect goes out and permeates the entire cosmos. It permeates your family, yourselves, your neighbors, your infrastructure, everything. It permeates in a way that is so deep and rich and long lasting. So should you be a parent in immediate need, please go to www.butterflyfamilywellness.com. Seek out Jennifer, see what she might be able to offer. Follow her on her different social media channels and so forth, and empower yourselves. Do this in a way that just ripples out and shares that. Refer someone if that's what's needed, but just find it. And if it's not Jennifer, then find it with someone else, because now you're at least aware of the opportunity and the possibilities. You're not alone, you're not isolated, and you're not unempowered.
Yes.
So I thank you, Jennifer, so much for being the first Inspired Connections guest. I'm absolutely thrilled and wonderful to have you on. And I will close with this. As I've always said, no matter where you are or what you're doing or whom you're with, Remember to always wrap yourself in goodness. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you on the next Inspired Connections.
Thank you.